Welcome to Your Iconic Image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Founder and CEO of UnleashU Now and executive director of a nonprofit and owner of several other businesses, Michael Fabber is known in the entrepreneurial space for the impactful movement he has created while focusing on business and personal growth. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Good. If anybody doesn't know who you are and they were to look you up, there are a ton of things it is obvious that we could glean from you from a business perspective. But instead of that, today, we're going to talk about something bigger and creating a legacy. So first of all, tell me, what does that mean to you, legacy?
To me, your legacy is the story you wrote by your actions of being here. And that's everything, right?
It was interesting because this morning, it just so happened that something came across my Instagram feed and it said, legacy is a story you leave behind for others to tell, the impression you make on the next generation. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty big thing. And it's also a weighty responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you decide that it needed to be bigger than business for you?
I think 2011 was really when the realization that how I was living and what I was doing was pointless, was meaningless. And that if I continued that way, the only thing at the end would be a number in a bank account. And anybody ever lost somebody, you never was like, hold on, what number is that in that bank account again? All right, that's never happened for all the people I've lost. So at that point, I realized I lived life in a way that I never wanted to live again.
So what did you start to change?
Everything started with me, my mindset, my belief, my focus. And then started working outwards. Right? I believe everything comes in to out. So if it's real and true and sustainable, it's going to be here first, and then it's going to work this way. But I had to change everything about what I believed, what I looked for, who I wanted to be, what I was about. So it was a lot of interior to start, and then start working down the process of how does this come out? Like, how do I show? It's always this funny story. The first time, so I told my buddy we were going to change the world, right, in 2011. And if you know us, and me saying that, his response was, "Are you high?" Right? And I was like, "No." All right, but that also tells me where we've been, right? So I'm like, "No, but seriously, like, we're going to change the world." And he said, "That's impossible." And I'm like, "Nobody changes the world." And I was like, "How does the world change?" Right? Like, people change the world. And he goes, "Well, how are we going to do it?" And I said, "One person at a time." And I'm very like, I look rugged and I played sports a lot, but I'm really a nerd, right? I love to learn. So I love to go to places and learn different things. So when like coaching space, a lot of people were like, fuck, the meme, I didn't eat the brownie this morning. Now I'm a health coach. Like, I did not want that to be my life, right? So I was like, I'm going to learn everything about this coaching space. And I came from human behavior, neuroscience, mental health space. So I already knew some of it. And I was just like, let me dive in and see what they're doing and saying and what resonates with me and what doesn't, what aligns with me and what doesn't, or who I want to be too. Sometimes we always say, who am I now? Does that align with me? And sometimes we got to ask, who I want to be. Does that align with me? Right? Because some of the things serving us now won't serve us where we want to be. And I went and I got like 1 million certificates, right? That says I'm a coach. All right. So whatever that means. But I take my buddy and I'm like, watch, like I can help. I can help people. Like, we can do this. I can help people. So we went to a diner in a local town. And I walked in and I'm just looking around to see who I'm going to help. Right? Like, talk about like crazy people at a diner. I didn't think this through beforehand, clearly. And there's a guy at the counter and he's sitting there and he's eating. And I'm like, this is my guy. All right. So I walk up to him. I'm like, "Sir, how are you?" And he looks over at me. I'm like, "My name is Michael Fabber. And tell me what your biggest problem is. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to guide you through and solve it." He goes, looks right at me, dead in my eye, and goes, "You." All right. And I go, "You got it, sir." And I walked away. I walked to my buddy and I said, "See, 1 down. Let's keep going." But it was such an awkward, horrible beginning, but really it was exactly what it needed to be for me.
So how did you then take all of this learning and knowledge and start to really put it in motion aside from the awkward guy at the diner.
Right. You know what's funny? It's like this was back in 2011 to 2012. And the first year, I think we did like 380 free like moments, right? Like we had numerous clients. I can't remember the exact number. None of them paid a dime, right? I was like, we are going to go out of business, right? Like we do not have a business. We have a hobby,
Yeah.
right? But we had 300 and some odd sessions. And then we did some different kind of like one-on-one activities and experiences. And I was like, this is great, but we're not going to make it. Like, this isn't a business. This is a hobby. Right. And my buddy, actually, same buddy, Alex McClure, has been with me from day one of this, still is with me. He literally emceed every single event we had except for the last two. Oh, no, two out of the last three. Amazing dude, hilarious. He doesn't shut up now. Before he never talked, now he doesn't shut up. It's weird. But we were going through, and at the end, he goes, Mike, do you really want to do this, or are you just doing this for fun? And he's like, if you really want to do this, you have multiple other businesses, you know how to run a business. And my fear was that if I let business get involved in this, it would become every other business to me. And that was my interior dialogue happening. That's why I was like, no, like we don't need to charge. Like, let's just find people and help people. And that was the time where I had to question myself and go, can you do this differently? How will you do this differently? What serves that purpose? And how do we make this something bigger than just, hey, do you need something? All right, can we help? And make this something where we were actually part of transforming lives.
So talk us through that a little bit, because I think a lot of people, when you have a passion for something and a desire to change people or do something for people, a lot of people are hesitant about the money part of it.
100%.
So how do you shift that?
Right. So that's great. So originally when I got in this, I didn't want to talk business, right? Or like today, you're like, we're not going to talk business. And yet we're talking some business because somehow I always find a way towards it. And I'm like, right, like I want to talk about mindset. I want to talk dreams and goals and how, like, what's fulfillment? What makes your heart leap? Like that's stuff I love talking about. So when you say that passion, right, a lot of people jump into entrepreneurship and they know nothing about business, including myself. When I first jumped in, I knew nothing about business. I was like, I can do this. Let's do this, right? And then it was just like, oh my God, I'm losing my butt over this, right? And it was a lot of hard lessons, right? And one of my buddies was like, Mike, you see all these people with passion. I want to help people. My ultimate goal is to end self-injurious behavior and suicide. That's my ultimate goal, right? But when you say that, you sound like a lunatic. Right? Like, okay, buddy, right? So it's like, how can we make that somewhat logical so people can then believe it enough to follow you through the journey enough for you to actually be able to guide and serve them? Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest things we had to change was whatever the exchange policy is, we all need it. Right? Like, I don't care if you call it money, now crypto, right? NFTs, like used to be like furs and animals and products, but whatever it was that is your exchange policy, we all need that. And why I always say I want to serve empowering entrepreneurs is because we will typically take that and how can we better serve our people? How can we be better to be better, right? Because we have to be better before we can do better for others, right? So it's how when you create that exchange policy, what you use that as for completely is you, right? Like whatever you want the Lambo, cool, right? Like I'm really not a Lambo guy, so go enjoy that, right? But cool, like whatever it is you want to do, that's what you get to do with it. So when we talk about money, a lot of people look at money as like evil or will bring the bad out, right? No, it just highlights what's already there, right? So if you're good, if you're good-hearted, if you care, if you love, right, your people, if you want to serve, that is going to be a tool to serve greater. So we get out of the way of it being this crazy thing, and it's just a tool, right? Like anything else. And when you get it, you get to determine how you use it. But I know the more you have of that tool, the more things you can do to help where you want to help and serve who you want to serve. And it's creating that mindset around it and that you are worthy of it, then that can create the change of then having it. And like everything else, we work mindset first, and then we can start working outwards to who's your who and being able to explain your what in a way that resonates with people and make it realize it's an investment, right? Things like that. But that's some detail I won't get into.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that too, because I know a lot of people that are in business that money is not their driving factor.
100%. Good.
It's,
Good people.
it's, it, for a lot of us, it's a result of what we do, but it's not the reason for what we do. And that's okay.
100%. That's great. But anything you do for the money, you're probably not going to be able to in it long enough to get the money. Right? It's there's two reasons why businesses fail, right? And it really comes down to one, right? Money. And I hate when people say that, because that's not helpful at all. Right? We were having this, I literally almost walked off the stage because we were in this panel and everybody kept talking about cash flow. Right? And I'm like, that's a byproduct of what we do. Right? It's like even people that work check to check. You work, then you get your check. Right? It's not like you get your check and then hopefully you work. Right? It doesn't work that way. So we have to do what we have to do in order to create the impact, the value add to whatever community or society we're trying to give it to, and then order to be reciprocated with the cash. So if you get in this for cash, you're out. Right? Like I can't work with you. I can't help you. It's over. Right? It's over. It's just, when is it over? Right? Because some people hit early and then phase out. I would say, like, there's so many people that come in that are hotter, right, or more flashier than we are, right? And I'm like, that's great. When I first started, they used to annoy the hell out of me. I'd be like, come on, we're here like 3 years. They're just here 3 days, right? And now I'm just like, oh, that's going to happen. Let's see if they can maintain, right? Because it's a marathon. And if they're in it for the right reasons, they probably will. If they're in it for the wrong reasons, they probably won't, right? And that's why we don't talk about opening businesses. We talk about starting movements, because movements never die. Businesses close all the time, but movements never die. And the businesses that have been built in movement form have survived product changes, leadership changes, right? And it's because movements don't die. They live forever. You talk about legacy, that's a hell of one.
Yeah. So talk to us about some of the difference between a movement and a business.
Right? So a movement is like, there's a greater cause to it all, right? It's like, I always talk about Apple, bring Apple up a lot. And Apple's like, look at their logo. It's like one of the worst logos ever. It's a half-bitten apple, right? Like I always tell people, like, oh, your logo is it? Go to the store, bite an apple in half, walk outside and try to sell it. And Apple users won't even cover it because they want you to know why. Because it's the best product? It's not. What do they make that's the best? They don't make the best phones, right? Data can say this. I'm just going by data. I'm not going by my opinion. I have an iPhone. So before iPhone users get real mad, I have Apple everything. Right? But it's like, why? Because Apple came out and said, I'm for the misfit. I'm for the one that doesn't want to be in a cubicle, round hole, square peg, or vice versa. Right? Like they came out for that person that was like, this isn't my life and I don't want it to be it. So like anyone that has it, it's funny, our videographer is a younger guy. Right? I call him a kid, he gets very upset, but he's a younger guy. And he has this laptop. He has like 7,000 stickers on this laptop. And I was like, why? Like I can't identify any one of them. Right? But you know what a sticker is not covering? The Apple. Even though he has like 7,000 stickers on that. Why? Is because that's a beacon to all the other ones that feel the same way, that believe the same way. They created a movement, a community that was something bigger than just a product. That's why they went from computers to phones to headphones to like a million other things, right? That people are now buy. Why? It's a different product. It's not what they originally sold you. If you're a product-based business and try to do that, consumers are going to be like, that's not loyal. Like you didn't follow suit. You broke our trust. But if you're movement-based, they don't care what you give them because they know what it's for. And that's why when you say movements, it's like it creates the idea that it's for something bigger and you're part of something bigger. And people, we want connection is the cornerstone of human existence, right? Like there's a popular TED talk that says connection is the cure for addiction. And it's a dope TED talk. I just disagree. And connection is part of addiction. I have an addicted personality, all right? I used to use it in booze and drugs and parties and fun and all that good stuff, right? And then now I use it for personal development and growth and serving. I still have the same addicted personality. What I'm addicted to now serves me and the person I want to be going forward, rather than the other stuff serve the hole I wanted to fill that it didn't fill, and it was just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's the problem, right? So connection is like we all want to connect to something. Right? It's like people that jump into different groups and communities and they're like, yeah, like you'll see on my post, people post, I look like a Care Bear. People will post 1 million hearts, right? Blue and green hearts. I would say like, people make fun of me because I came from a different lifestyle, right? I used to get in a lot of trouble. I went through some things, right? And now you'll go to my Facebook page and people are like, so people I know from back in the day, they're like, I'm like, what happened, bro? Like now you got like 40 hearts on your profile. I'm like, man, it's our community. We're strong. Like we believe, like we believe in what we're fighting for, in what we're going towards, in the life and the world we think we can be part of, and we can be part of setting. And that makes it important, right? Like that makes it matter. Because
Mm.
no offense, like I'm just a person, right? Like I'm skin and bones. Right. Like they say, what is the phrase? Die a hero, because if you live long enough, they make you not one. Right. And it's like, so the person is interchangeable. There could be someone else sitting in the seat tomorrow. Right. But the movement, what we're going towards, the cause above us all, that can't be stopped.
Mm. And you hit on an interesting point that I just want to touch back on. Because sometimes when we go in a different direction, or not everybody from our past is on board.
100%.
And talk to us a little bit about being able to move forward regardless, and having to trim
Man,
what's
it's like,
around you
me.
sometimes.
I'm like, you did good research for this one. This was the hardest thing for me. Like literally, they say we all have a gremlin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the gremlin is something inside of you that is like your hardest thing to get past, right? It's like you're Goliath, right? In another sense. And mine was, I never wanted to leave my people behind, right? Like that was always my thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I went through a lot of loss in life. I lost some really good friends I consider like brothers. I did lose a brother as well. I lost my pops when I was younger, right? So I saw all too often and early what life can do, right? Like what the Annie of life is, right? And it's before I understood it was an Annie of life that we're going to go through these things. We're going to go through losses and how to view a loss rather than victim, right?
Mm-hmm.
To that, I was lucky, right? Like I was lucky to know my dad, right, and have a dad for 18 years, right? I was lucky to have a brother for 10 years that was as dope as my brother, right? I was extremely lucky to have some amazing friends I consider like brothers to me that we lost along the way. I was extremely lucky, right? Rather than I lost them early, I was extremely lucky to have them at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a reframe in loss, right? And it's going to be tested more. I mean, my mom's still here; she's amazing, right? The day that changes will be a hard reframe for me to say, man, I was so lucky to have such an amazing person in my life. And because of all these things and where I came from, if you left your people behind, you were a sellout, right? You sold out. You left us, right? So I never wanted to be that because we always looked down upon that. And it was only a couple years ago, and a guy I didn't know at all. All right, we were at a conference. I was speaking. He was speaking, and he said, "Mike, can I talk to you?" I was like, "Yeah." And this is how little I knew him. Like, what's your name again? Right? And I was like, I don't want to be disrespectful. What's your name again? Like, I don't want to say the wrong name. And he was like, that's not important. He's like, I've been watching you though and studying you. He's like, you're good. He's like, I don't say that often. You're good. Like how you speak, how real you are, how open you are to people. Like you're not a lot of BS. I'm trying not to curse on your show. I curse like crazy, but I'm trying not to curse. And he's like, like you're very real. Like you're very okay with being you. And that's the hardest thing in the space. And I'm like, wow, like, thank you. That's a great compliment. He's like, that was the nice part. Here's the problem for you is that you're so busy trying to be you and trying to hang on to you that you're not becoming and being what you need to accomplish what you say you want to do.
Mm.
So what's more important to you? Make that decision and live with it, but it's on you. Right. And he said this, he's like, as much as you're holding on to the people that you're trying to drag with you, there are people waiting on your path that are dying for you to get there and speak what you have to speak to them. Pick which life, the one that doesn't want to go or the one that's trying hard to. Right. And that was like one of the biggest, like mind blowing moments for me. And like, just like heart wrenching that people were literally waiting on the path that you're meant to travel. And they're waiting for you to speak. And they're literally waiting there, dying, suffering, going through all the trials and tribulations they're going through over and over and over because the voice that's supposed to resonate with them. Right. The thing that's going to move them is in you, and you're not moving where you're supposed to move or where you're meant to move because you're hanging on to someone that's not meant to move with you.
Mm.
Right? And that was the time where I just had to be very honest and real with my team. And I said, listen, guys, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what we're about. This is what we said we got in this for. And talk is great, but it's the cheapest on the line. Right. It's like then action and then intention. I believe it's higher than both. right? And I have to be real. Like one of my biggest things is let's be very real in whatever space we're in. And because of that, I have to move forward. And not everybody went. And it was sad. And still sometimes I reminisce and think about the early days in this when everybody was like, yeah, when it was like a hope dream. Like we didn't, like these days, I always say these days we're living right now was once a dream. And heck, at one point, it wasn't even a dream. We didn't even know this was possible, right? So it's one of the hardest things I had to do as me as the person I am. But also, I will tell you the relationships that I've built and received because I move forward, the grace, right, the love and the experiences, 100% worth it.
I love that. What about this journey has been more than you expected, good or bad?
All right, all of it. One, I never thought I'd be sitting here on your show, right? I never thought I would be put on many people's stages because when I first started, no one wanted me on their stage. I was a wild card. I'm still a wild card, but I was even more of a wild card then. To say we're like unexpected, I never thought we would have an event. Forget over a dozen a year, right? And even a dozen in a COVID year. I never like the community, how powerful it is. Like I would say, I'm blessed. The community is a community of leaders. When people say, "Oh, you get your coaching," and I'm like, "Yeah." Right. And they're like, "You get trips, like this is part of our mastermind stuff. Like you get all this stuff." And I'm like, guys, you're missing the best thing is you're going to be in a room. Like you have Facebook group rooms, events. You're going to be with people that are literally life changers, right? That are changing other people's lives repeatedly over and over. And you're going to be in the room with them and you're going to be able to serve them in a way and they're going to be able to serve you in a way. And if you're real and good at what you do, right? Like it's going to be magical for you. And like, I never thought, what the hell? Like, I'm not going to create that, right? Like I created crime, right? Like what I'm going to create this, like, good luck. Right. And me saying that just sounded weird because I didn't create it. Right. I was part of thinking about a space being open for people to create it. Right. And so when you say what was expected, none of this we're living right now is to be expected. Like literally in a couple of days, I fly out to Nashville to sign the paper on this coming year's event. There's gonna be like 250 people, and then 2023 event where there's gonna be 3,000 people. Like whoever thought that, right? So everything we're living now, it wasn't even a dream at one point. Like I did not believe or think this was feasible, right? So what I always say is, as you start feeling your purpose, right, you start getting pulled towards things, right? And as you start going, it's like climbing a mountain. You're going to break through the clouds at one point and everything's going to come clearer, right? You're going to be able to see better. When you can see better, you're going to see different things that you did not know existed or that were possible. And the more you climb, the more you're going to see. And then you're even going to see different mountains that are like, now that's the mountain I want to climb, right? So it's like, there's no wrong here. Everybody's always like, oh, you can't quit this or pivot. And I'm like, that's just life. Like as you grow, things you do grow, right? So all the amazing things that we're experiencing, all surprises right now. If you were like, Mike, did you write this? Like people are always like, I wrote this exact plan down 10 years ago, right? And I'm like, I did not, right? Like I was just like, I didn't even know how to help people. Literally the first thing I did was hold the door for somebody. It was like, well, made someone's life better today, right? And a basketball coach asked me that question a long time ago. Did anyone breathe easier because you existed? And when my life crumbled and shattered, and I was literally in the worst motel I was ever in. When I slept in my car, it was actually better than this motel, and it was in Alabama. No offense to anybody in Alabama, but the Mobile Inn at the time was whew, right, just rough. And I was sitting on the stoop, and I was like, "How did I get here? Right? Like, how did my life detour to this point?" And I thought about that line. Did anyone breathe easier because you existed? And I was damn near 30, and the answer was no. And I was like, wow, like what kind of self have I been my entire existence? Right. And it was, I just want to help someone today. I just want to make someone's life easier. So at that point, it was holding doors and learning, right? How can I grow to actually help others grow? And also the hardships. I mean, the hardships are going to be there. Like it's a battle. right? Like it's entrepreneurship, right? It's the arena.
Right.
And I talk about the arena often because I want people to understand. I don't like to compare anything to war. So I don't like to belittle any, like, wars beyond my understanding, right? So I never want to, from family of military, I never want to compare anything to that level. But I compare it to the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a battle, and you're going to be bruised, and you're going to be beaten, and there's times you're going to lay on the ground, and you're going to have something really important to stand up for, because you're not going to want to.
Mm.
And that's why I always, like, people make fun of like your why or what you're doing this for. And that's one of the first questions I ask anybody I work with, because if it's not powerful, you're willing to dive into why that's powerful, we're not going to survive. Like, you're not going to make it. And we need that thing that makes this pump and makes us get out of bed and makes us get into the office and makes us put our warrior makeup on, whatever you want to call it, right? Like war paint, right? And our shields and our swords, and get into the arena and fight every day.
So with that, of course, I have to ask, what is your why?
My why is for everyone that ever sat on the beach with a gun in their mouth like I did, that they know that it's worth it, that they have someone loves them, someone cares for them, and the battle's worth it. Like, all the shit, everything you went through, all the mistakes you think you made, everything that makes you think you're worthless is going to make you worth something.
Mm.
So keep going. That's who I do this for. And so my daughter never gets in that position.
What lights you up? What sets your heart on fire? And do you gauge everything you do against that?
100% I gauge everything we do as a movement, as a business, as a person, is to feel fulfillment as much and as often as we can, right? Because with that, we'll go through anything, right? And then, there's literally a sign behind my desk that says, "What sets your soul on fire?" And it's because it's such an important thing to know. And that moment that you connect with someone, and not like we're both Mets fans, right? I'm not saying you're a Mets fan. I am, but that moment that you connect with someone at such an intimate, emotional level, like something that you don't know someone could connect that with, and you just see it in their eyes that they know they're not alone now, right? Like in that area, that's the thing, right? Because with that, then starts belief in what you can do, and not because of what you went through, you can't.
Is there a way to connect with people who are hesitant to connect?
100%. Right. One, the oldest form of communication is story.
Mm.
Right. So I can sit here and tell a story about one of my best friends taking his life, right, in 2011. That's when my life kind of crumbled. And I can, that's when I realized how fake I was. That's what I would say. It's like the realization that the reality I created was completely fake. Right. So it's like, what existence did I have? Right. I can tell that story, and you might not have had a best friend that lost their life. Right. But when we describe that feeling of being utterly lost, a feeling like I didn't belong or deserve to be here, no matter what your story is that you're telling yourself, that feeling you can resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So all I need you to do is give me time to tell the story. And if I tell the story, I'll figure out by your body language and how you react and when you react to know what you connect with. And then as soon as I know that, then I know I can get to you through storytelling to make your shield come down and down, let me in a certain area. And then hopefully I mean well by being in that area, and we can help each other and guide each other to a better part.
Mm. So if you're known for nothing else, what do you want to be known for?
Caring. I was the ultimate carer. I was the Care Bear guy. Right? I went from prison to Care Bears. But that I cared, right? That I loved. Right? I think at the end, there's like the greatest human act is to inspire. I heard that said once. I thought that was so amazing, right? Like the greatest human act is to inspire. And I always think the biggest point, like the point of our existence, is to love and be loved. Right? And I always say, like, I'm not scared of death. Right? Like, I know that comes. That's going to get all of us at some point. I'm scared to die with things left in me. Right? Like, I see my friends that died too young, and I know they had more left in them. I'm like, damn. Right? And then I see my mom. She's wringing that shit out. Right? Like, she's like, I made it this far, and then I finally cursed. Sorry, but she's wringing that thing out into the bucket, right? She's using it everything. Even when you think it's over, she's like, ha, ha, right, and got more, and it's amazing. And I don't know when I go, but I know my goal is to go where that thing was wringed out. And I loved everyone I could. I connected with everyone I was meant to, and that life was different because I was here.
Love it. With that, Mike, I just have 4 final questions for you.
Let's go.
First one was, what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
It's worth it. Literally saved my life.
Name one thing on your bucket list.
Take my mom and my daughter to Italy for a month and just tour Italy. Hopefully next year. I was in a quick minute. I was in Italy during this like tour, the cruise, but not enough where I got to experience it. My mom, she wrote a book called Growing Up Mafia, I think. Like one of the best presents I ever got my mom. I took her to Vegas and we went into the mob museum. And she's like, oh my God, there's my Uncle Patty. And it was like all the, right? And people are with me like, and I'm like, yep, right? Like that's my mom's life. So I think taking her back to like, because she used to be, her grandmother was the one that came on the boat. And she was like, her best friend was her grandmother growing up, right? So she heard all the stories about the old country and where her family came from and what they were about and why they were here. And I think to take her into that element that she's never been in, and then have my daughter with her in that element to see an experience that they could have together and a connection they could have together that I can't be part of, like that I can't give anyone. I think that would be one of the ultimate moments of my life that I'll hang on to.
When the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
Phew, I think it matters what time of the day and what time of my life you ask me this, right? I think a blowhorn and a pen.
Interesting.
Right? Because you got to put your story out there.
Love it.
Because that will change lives forever, even after you're done.
Love it. And last one, how do people find you?
Like you said, just Google me. No, I put a lot out there. Most people are annoyed with me because if they follow me on Facebook, I post too much. You know what's funny? Every week I get a message, hey, what bot do you use to make posts for you? I'm like, myself. Right? I have no time. I have no life. I can post all day. No, okay. But I would say the best way, first of all, I'm an open book. Like literally when I say I'm there for you, I mean it to my core. My private number is public. It's posted on every social media I have. You can literally call me or text me. That's not some BS SMS service. That is my personal number. If you're going through something, I'm here. What's up? Like, what can we do? Right? So, and my email, that's my private email. It's public. Email me if you want, right? Like, I don't care. The best way to get me quicker, other than those 2 ways, is probably Facebook. Michael Fabber, you can find me on there. The Coach Mike Fabber is my page, but come to me, let's be friends. Like, I'm not really big on this is my page, only talk to me here. I know a lot of people say that. I'm more about the relationship and the connection. That's the currency in which I hold the dearest too. So find me on Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is the Coach Mike Fabber. Facebook is just Michael Fabber. Find me and let's connect.
And I highly, highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm honored. I really appreciate you letting me be part of your platform. You have an amazing show and you're an amazing light on this world. So thank you for letting me shine in it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.